Hello and welcome to episode number 100 of the Hobbies and Happiness podcast, where we talk all about the hobby that makes us happy, card games. I'm one of your hosts, Dan.
And I'm Jim. Today, is Star Wars Unlimited the greatest card game ever?
You know what's funny is I honestly think you said that exact same thing when we first talked about this game.
Maybe. I think I might have.
So, how's it going, everybody? This is episode 100. Can you believe that we're at episode 100?
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know what's funny is like when we first started doing the podcast, this was the episode that I'm like, let's just get through 100 episodes and then see what happens. Like, we got to get 100 episodes under our belt and then go from there. And this is that episode, so I'm excited.
If you were to ask me after, right after filming episode 2, where we were sitting on your couch and you're like, you know, we're going to make it to 100 episodes. I'm like, if I got to sit on this couch for 100 episodes, I ain't doing this.
Was that episode 2?
My back was broken.
That was a terrible couch as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually number 10. I think it was number 2.
There's a reason we got rid of that couch.
yeah, that was a rough one.
It was a rough one.
It hurt.
I did not like it either.
Yeah.
So, well, first of all, I got to say, thank you to Jim, my co-host. This has been a blast. I'm excited. This is a lot of fun, and I could not have done it without you. Mm-hmm. And thank you to the listeners, to everyone watching the podcast as well. Thank you for sticking with us. Mm-hmm. You know, we're by no means done, but we appreciate you guys all tuning in. Not each and every week, but for the most, we try to do it weekly as best we can. And honestly, you know, these past couple months, I've really been trying to put an emphasis on this is a weekly podcast. We want to make sure we're getting an episode out each week. So thank you everybody for being here. Yes. It's really a pleasure for that there's really people just listening to us talk about card games, and you know this has been fun. So before we dive into the episode further, we need to talk about our sponsor, Amazon Audible. If you head over to our affiliate link, www.audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness, you can find a link to our affiliate. It's our affiliate link. You can sign up for your free 30-day trial of Amazon's Audible service, and Amazon Audible is their audiobook service. When you sign up, you get a free 30-day trial. You get 1 free credit added to your account, so you can use that credit to get a audiobook onto your account. What's better is if you're an Amazon Prime member, you get 2 free credits added to your account. You sign up, get those credits, get an audiobook that you want to listen to. And audiobooks are phenomenal for car rides. When you're commuting to and from work, it's nice to just put on an audiobook in the background, kind of get some good stories in. Mm-hmm. So head over to that affiliate link, sign up for your free 30-day trial today. And what's better is if you don't like the service, you can cancel before the end of that 30 days. You can cancel, and then you still get to keep that credit on your account. So again, audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness. Sign up for your free 30-day trial of Amazon Audible today. All right. It's still kind of blowing my mind that, you know, we're at 100 episodes, dude.
I know.
It's really crazy.
Yeah, you wanted to thank me for being here. I should be thanking you for being here. I just sit here and look pretty all day.
He does look pretty.
Especially that one dude in the comments section. Thank you.
When I saw that, I'm like, yeah, Jim's going to like that one.
You know, part of me, I think I need to stop telling people that in like real life from like, oh, yeah, I don't really do it. I just sit there, look pretty. Because one person at my work brought that up, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to go record. He's like, but I thought you don't do much for it. I'm like, okay. All right. Okay. I'm like, it's a lot still. Yes. Even though other people here do more work than myself, it's still a lot.
and I think today is going to be one of those episodes. So today we're talking all about Star Wars Unlimited. Yes. Now, and the thing I want to touch on first is just talk a little bit about card game news, because this is a segment that we kind of wanted to start doing a little bit. But there's the biggest piece of news, and we're kind of going to dive into this topic probably on the next episode. But it's in regards to Disney Lorcana allocation. There have been some allocation numbers that have just come out, and they do not look pretty. They do not look pretty at all. And honestly, for somebody like me, like, I'm not surprised, because we've said for a long time that this is Ravensburger's first trading card game. Yep. You know, and again, you don't know. I say this thing a lot, but the comment of you don't know what you don't know. Ravensburger hasn't done a TCG before. Sure, they are a very successful board game company.
Yep.
They got a line of successful products out the door, in all honesty. But trading card games is a beast in and of itself. Yeah. And you have a first-time company making a TCG. And in all honesty as well, you also have a lot of first-time TCG players, which is good. Like I don't say that like it's a bad thing, but it's very much a good thing. But when you go on some of these forums and websites like Facebook, and you go into these groups and you see people talking about MSRP, market price, it's clear they don't really know what they're talking about. And again, I'm going to say this now, but we will really dive into this next week, I think, on this next episode. But when you're running an LGS, your margins are already thin. You already have thin margins, okay? And then you hear terms like MSRP, and then you have market price. These are concepts that, if you're not familiar with the business, like business in general or marketplaces in general, yep. there are terms that can kind of go over your head. In all honesty, when I first started learning about this stuff, it was stuff that really did go over my head, right? Because again, as a consumer, I see these commercials, right? When I'm a kid, right? You see these N64 commercials, but they are advertising a product, and it says on the TV MSRP. Like, oh, so I can expect to pay that price when I go down to the store. Yep. With TCGs, it's not very much like that. It's really not, because this type of product is a type of product that supply and demand really, really, really dictate the market prices for these things. Yeah. So the long and short of it is allocations are terrible. The demand for this product is sky high, and Ravensburger needed to print this first set into oblivion. It doesn't look like they've done so. Now, what we don't know the numbers for Wave 2. We don't know much of those numbers yet. And then the other piece of the puzzle is you have product that's going to be going to big box retailers like Walmart and Target. Okay, we don't know what those numbers look like. All we know is local game store owners or local game stores and their numbers. But they do not look good. So, and Jim, you've got more experience in this realm than I do, purely from the standpoint of you've worked in an LGS before. Yeah. So do you have any good stories, bad stories about allocations, or just not getting your order, or anything to that effect?
Yeah, so it's happened a lot where we didn't get our order. My former boss, when he was showing me all the ins and outs of the ordering setup for distributors, he was like, oh yeah, we try to put in as much as we want from every single distributor because we know we're not going to get everything we want.
Oh yeah.
So he's just like, all right, I want 20 boxes of this, 20 boxes of this, 20 boxes of this, knowing that he's just going to get like 1 or 2 boxes.
Really?
Or even a case or whatever it may be. He knows that he's not going to get everything that he wants from that one distributor. So he has to set that number higher, which is, unfortunate. But there are other places. I learned there was one distributor that made it to where when you lock in the amount that you want, they are pretty much guaranteeing the number that you get. So some places will over order like we would do. So this makes it to where they're stuck buying that many boxes, but you also know exactly how many it is you're going to get.
And I think a lot of that comes down to your distributor and your reps with those distributors. What were your boss's relationships like with his reps? Did he have pretty reliable reps, or do you really know much of those relationships?
I don't know too much of that, but just basing off of what it is he ordered, how much it was, I don't think he was prioritized very high with distributors.
Okay, which when you have smaller stores, larger stores, like I can understand the ins and outs of that, but it's just frustrating, right? Especially because the thing that I said when I saw these numbers is what this is adding up for is just straight up disappointment all around. Yeah. When you're trying to run OP events, when you're trying to run when you're trying to run tournaments and these events in store, how can stores be expected to run these events when they just don't have product?
Yep.
So,
and one other thing I want to bring up. Do you remember when Magic got rid of the MSRP for their boxes?
Yep.
That was a very big cluster heck.
Yeah. Charlie Foxtrot, as I like to call it.
Yeah, it was, man, everyone was mad. They're like, well, now people are going to be able to price boxes out whatever they want and blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys, they already are.
Do. I know, they already are. That's the thing.
They already were.
That's the thing. And again, but the last thing I'll say in this, because we're like I said, we're going to dive heavily into this topic because I know this is something that you can speak to a lot, as well as I can, because I mean we've been around for a while. Okay, and then when we're talking about a new TCG, you have people who really haven't been around this type of environment, and it's kind of a culture shock. It really kind of is. But what'll happen is if you have a LGS who is going to say, no, we're only going to sell at MSRP. Number one, those margins are already razor thin. Okay. Yeah. Now, the problem that owners and stores are going to have, if you sell MSRP, people, and I'm not even saying scalpers, okay, but people will see that as an opportunity. They know what those boxes, forget even boxes, packs. I don't even care that it's sealed product because there have been people saying, oh, well, you open up the cellophane, all scalpers care about a sealed product. Not really. I mean, kind of, yes, that's definitely part of it. But it's the product that really matters. And like, honestly, they'll take the packs as well. You can sell the packs. Okay.
If there's a card in a product that's going for a ridiculous amount and it's always higher price than the sealed product of it, they will open it. Oh, yeah. Open it, get rid of everything else, or keep it and sell it over time and sell the one card, whatever it is.
Correct. Yeah, so basically what I was saying was if you have a store who's going to say they're going to stick to MSRP, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for players. It is an opportunity for players. Okay, it's an opportunity for players, scalpers, anyone. It is an opportunity. And then what that store could possibly run into is they sell out of their product, and that product is not going to players at their store. It's just it's not. It's a possibility that it's not going to do that because as an owner, you want to help your customers, your customer base, and your customer base are the people who come into your store, buy product from you, and then play at your store. Like that is the people that you as an owner want to actively support. Okay, because it's your repeat customers, it's your community, right? And again, like we value our community and we know that stores and store owners want to do that as well. But when you have a product where the demand is sky high, even from everyone, not just your local community, okay? It is very hard when you don't have product to ensure that your local community is going to get that. So it's a fine line, and I just don't like hearing people say, well, these owners, if you see anyone selling at all above MSRP, they're trying to rip you off, they're terrible people, they have no ethics. No, just stop talking. Seriously, you have no idea what you're talking about. You have none, no clue, stop. Period, end of story, stop. And we will dive into this more next week, but I'm sorry, it ticks me off. It's frustrating, Jim.
Question, how are they going to sell Magic at MSRP when there's no MSRP now?
Oh, they don't care about that.
Oh, my bad. All right, my mistake. My mistake.
It's because I'm sorry. It's just it's so frustrating. I mean, and this is coming from people like we've been in this for a while. Like we know, and the thing is, like we live in reality. Like we live in the real world. I think people are living in a fantasy world who are saying you only sell at MSRP and anyone who sells above that, they're terrible people who they just care about ripping people off. No, there are plenty of owners who actively care about their community and want to get them the product, but how can you? It's very hard to ensure that only certain members of your community are going to have access to the product. You know, it's... The market, and we've talked about this many times, the card game marketplace is so volatile. And then when you throw a new TCG into the mix that is so in demand, it just creates so many different things. But yeah, that's what's going on in card game news. And like I said, we'll talk about this more next week. But I know this is something that you can speak to.
Was never once upset, Dan. Was never once.
You were never what
No,
now?
Dan was never once upset.
Oh yeah, well.
Never once.
I'm sorry, but I've been on some of these forums and on Facebook the past couple of days, and just, dude, Facebook is there are certain groups on Facebook that are just a cesspool, a cesspool of people. It's a cesspool, straight up. It's a cesspool, and I'm trying to gotta be nice. I gotta be kind.
Guys,
all right.
Dan is new to the internet, okay? There's a lot of terrible stuff on the internet.
Oh, goodness. It's funny. Anywho, now we're going to move on to the main topic for the day.
Star Wars Unlimited, greatest card game ever?
It might be. So here's what we're going to do, okay? So the last time we talked about Star Wars Unlimited was episode 92, okay? And we kind of approached that topic from the standpoint of we didn't know much about the game. We just knew it's a new Star Wars card game and FFG's making it.
Yeah.
That was it. We had a lot of reservations.
And that's Final Fantasy games.
Fantasy games,
okay,
yeah.
Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so I'm going to mention this now. So I was happy to be a guest on the Wampa Radio podcast. I was filling in for Flake. So me and Charmer talked all about Star Wars Unlimited. Okay, and the main topic that we kind of discussed, and I was very glad that this was a topic, but the topic was like, what does FFG need to do for this game to be successful? Right? Based off of like the history of Star Wars Destiny and like the fact that they've burned people in the past. And it's kind of a lot of stuff that we had talked about on our episode of the podcast. Okay. On episode 92, right? Which, guys, if you're at all interested in Star Wars Unlimited, you should definitely go check out the Wampa Radio podcast. Charmer and Flake are hosting it. I think I did episode 6. So go watch that one first, because that was the one that I was on, and then go watch all the other ones. But definitely go sub to that channel and check out that podcast. They are doing a really, really good job with that show as well. So that's kind of everything that we talked about, right? This is FFG. I don't know. It's kind of worrisome, right? And that's kind of how we approached this topic. But now we have the rules. We have the quick start rule set, okay? And so in all honesty, I've been going over these rules, and because I've asked Jim, I'm like, do we look at Star Wars? Do we start creating content for this game? How do we want to approach this? And we were just like, well, I want to find out more. And I'm going to ask you, since that episode, have you really dove into this game much at all?
No,
okay.
I have not.
So this is a perfect time, a perfect opportunity to go through this, because I have, Jim hasn't. So I'm interested to get Jim's take on this, because for me, this is now a game that I'm very much interested in. After being hesitant and then being like, I don't know, this game looks very intriguing to me, and it's one that, in all honesty, I would kind of like to make some content for this game and kind of really kind of get in the pipeline. And Charmer, even on that show, he was like, I want to ask you this, because, you're not really a front-facing member of the Star Wars Unlimited community. You're not doing a podcast. And then he was like, yet. And as soon as he said yet, I'm literally saying yet, because I'm like, and he even said, knowing you probably will be. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So that was funny. So, all right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through this quick start rules. Then I just want to kind of get Jim's thoughts, his opinions, and kind of what he thinks. And then I'll kind of give you guys my thoughts as well. So we're going to go through this document. We're going to highlight some of the things that are really showing us how to play the game. So we're going to start with the overview. Okay. It says Star Wars Unlimited is a trading card game in which each player takes on the role of a leader, an iconic Star Wars character who rallies their forces into battle to defeat their opponent's base. These forces are represented by a 50-card deck containing units, events, and upgrades. The game is played over a series of rounds. During the action phase of each round, you'll play cards from your hand and use these cards to attack your opponent's base and units. Then, in the regroup phase, you'll draw cards, build up your resources, and ready your units for the next round of battle. Early in the game, your leader will affect your battle passively, but eventually they'll join the fray as a powerful unit. All right. So a very, very brief overview. Essentially, with this game, is a 50 card deck. Outside of that 50 cards, each deck you pick a leader and a base. So you saw some of those bases, you saw some of those leaders. So real quick, like, what's your take on a game where you're building a deck around a character? And in this, so, you know, we've talked Alpha Clash, right? Alpha Clash, you've got a contender. Commander, similar thing. You have a character you're building a deck around.
You're a hero builder.
Yes. So now in this game, very similar take, right? You have your leader and then your base. What's your take on a game that allows you to build a deck like that instead of Magic, where it's just pick all your cards from together? Do you have a preference, one or the other?
I love hero building.
Okay.
You set up your one character, you got the passive, eventually it comes out into be a super awesome creature, and I love Commander, same thing. You pick your colors that you're going to be building your whole deck around, and this pretty much goes to that. I love it.
So if you were given a choice of playing one game over the other, and one of the games was a hero build, okay, and the other was not, would you pick the hero build over the other one purely just based off of that, and you had no other information?
If I had no other information, I'd say yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I don't know if you remember, but when we had Charmer on our podcast, he kind of mentioned that exact same thing. It's that sense. Now for you, is it more that sense of player agency, like you're like, this is my deck, or is it more of a theory crafting thing for you? Because I know you love building decks. So like, what is it that speaks to you, these types of hero builds?
So it's a little bit also coming from an MMO perspective.
Sure.
I have my character. Yeah, right. How can I make them like built for me? Yeah. So that's exactly where it comes from. Gotcha. I love the whole idea of I'm taking this one character, and you may have the exact same character, but our builds are going to be different. You know, and then we see which ones, take the cake.
Yeah, right, for sure. All right, so next, so winning the game. All right, so each base starts the game with 30 HP. If you deal enough damage to the enemy base to reduce it to 0 HP, you win the game. Yeah. Currently, all the bases, it's just it's a card on the field, and it's basically, it just has a number, 30 HP. That's really it, okay? Eventually, I know Flake and Charmer have talked about this a lot, but they would love to see bases with text on them, okay?
I assume so.
Yeah, right, exactly. Okay. Then it talks about setup. There's two player starters. You got your Luke starter, and then you have a Darth Vader starter, okay? Which I believe those are going to be at Gen Con. So don't worry, Jim. I have signed up for a how to play a demo of this. Okay, so there's a few steps to get started, which are important to know. Okay, number one, put your base into play facing your opponent. You put your leader into play below the base, horizontal, 9-unit side face up. Now, you are aware of this, I believe. Your heroes, your leaders are double-faced. Yep. Their horizontal side is passive, and then once you reach a certain threshold, you can perform what's known as an epic action, flip them, and now they come into battle. Yep. Now, my understanding, we'll get into this, but if your leader gets defeated in battle, they are then flipped and then go back in play, so you still get their horizontal side. Oh, okay. So you still get that effect. That's good. I believe. Yeah. We'll check that, but I'm pretty sure. So you're always going to have access to that effect. Again, I believe so. We'll get into this more. But if I'm correct, I was very excited to see that because I'm like, oh, that's perfect. All right, randomly determine who goes first. You shuffle your deck. You draw 6. Number 5, you may take a mulligan, shuffle your entire hand in your deck, then draw a new hand of 6 cards. So it's full mulligan, not partial. And I believe you can only do one hand because it says you must keep the new hand. Yep. Number 6, this is a big one. Choose 2 cards from your hand and put them into play face down near your base. They are now resources. You will use resources to pay for cards to play during the game. So you start the game with 2 resources in play. So think of Magic starting the game with 2 lands in play. How do you feel about that? What do you think about that?
Oh, man. All right. For me, coming from a more burn style, aggro style, I know a lot of times my opponent won't be playing like 1 or 2 drops. So those couple early turns gives me that advantage of playing
Yeah.
low cost things,
Yeah.
especially if they're fast or have haste. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, so I like the early turns of it being set up like that. You definitely feel a lot more powerful in the early stages with instantly having 2 resources.
Right.
So it doesn't have those slow start type of games.
Right.
But it's just something I really like because I've been doing it forever.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, I don't think this really changes up how I will be playing games.
Yes.
But instantly when you said it, I started thinking, I'm like, oh, okay, so the first turn, I just have 2 resources. I never play another resource and nothing but fire. Nothing but fire. Play 1 and 2 drops all day.
Yeah.
You know, just off the top. Boom, boom, boom. Never have to worry about things. But, you know, it's probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
And I hope it becomes the meta deck.
Yeah.
I first came up with it.
Yes. All right, so now we move on to the gameplay section of the quick start rules. All right, so first is action phase. So it says most of the gameplay happens during the action phase. During this phase, players go back and forth, taking 1 action at a time. The player with the initiative counter takes the first action. Then their opponent takes an action, and so on until both players have passed. So the actions available to a player are: you can play a card, you can attack with a unit, you can use an action ability, you can take the initiative or pass. So take the initiative. Do you remember when we played Ashes Reborn?
Yep.
So very similar to that. This is very, very similar to that game.
I like this idea.
So do I. I mean, for a TCG, because I can't remember TCG having this type of turn structure. The only thing that, like I said, was Ashes Reborn was what it brought me to, which I really liked how that game played.
Yeah.
I like that game in and of itself. That game is a lot of fun. But that back and forth, you do a thing, I do a thing, and then with that initiative token, it's going to set up some very interesting decisions. Do I pass here or do I take the initiative? That way, ensuring that I go first on that next turn. Okay. So it talks about playing a card. Cost in the upper left hand corner of each card. There are 3 types of cards. There's units, events, upgrades. Pretty standard, pretty typical across the board. Units are pretty self-explanatory. Events, think instants and sorceries. But so far, I believe everything is essentially going to be sorcery because on your turn, it's back and forth. Okay. And then upgrades, a la artifacts, enchantments, very, very similar to that. Okay. Each card type has different rules when played, as described in the following pages. Then it talks about ready and exhausted. Ready, untapped, exhausted, tapped. Now, let's actually read this here. It says units and resources enter play exhausted, then become ready at the end of the regroup phase each round. Many cards must exhaust in order to be used. Resources exhaust to pay for the cards you play from hand. Units exhaust to attack or use certain abilities, indicated by it's essentially a tap icon. But in all honesty, this type of icon 10 years ago would have landed FFG in court. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah,
at all.
But I think, but that's well beyond, well past that now. It's a funny thing to just take note of. An exhausted card cannot exhaust again until it is ready. Some leaders, including both Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, exhaust to use their own action ability. When you deploy your leader as a unit, you ready it, even if it was exhausted before. This means it can attack the same round it is deployed. See your leader on page 15 for details. Which I think this is actually interesting because with units entering play exhausted, it makes it so as long as you're untapped, you can do your thing. Doesn't matter when you entered the field. It simplifies it for me, you know? Because I remember when I was learning Magic, right? It's summoning sickness, like, well, but it's untapped. I should be able to do, but you just played it this turn. But isn't it, if it's untapped, I can do the thing, right? You know what I mean? Like, to me, it just kind of eliminates questions.
You can block with it, Dan. If
That's
it's tapped,
true.
You can't block with it.
That's true. That is true. Very true. Very true. But I should be able to attack, you know?
That's why I was like, you know what? Haste makes sense. Let's just give my entire deck haste.
Well, yeah. True. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, so they talk about units. Okay, so when I look at the page units, it's pretty standard. It tells you the cost. It tells you if it's ground or space. So there's two types of battlefields. You have your ground side and you have a space side. So units can only go on one side of the field. It's either a ground unit or a space unit. Very interesting. Okay, tells you there's the name, the traits, which is like your subtype. Okay, power and HP. Power toughness. It has the ability at the bottom of the card, and then aspect icons. So aspect icons we'll get into a little bit later down the line. The aspects are very, very interesting. The aspects are basically like your colors, okay, in Magic. It's just with the resource system. The resource system it's one resource. It's a singular resource.
Yep.
Okay, so the way they use these aspects is very, very interesting. Okay, and then we'll get into it. And so they do talk about ground and space. So it says combat is divided into two separate arenas, ground and space. Each unit is either a ground or space unit, as indicated at the top of the card. All ground units are played into the ground arena on one side of the player's base, and all space units are played into the space arena on the other side. In combat, ground units cannot attack space units, and vice versa, which makes sense. I would eventually I would like to see there be like some interaction somehow. I would like to see that. I don't know, but it would have to make sense, like within the context of the game.
Yeah.
But I like this. So, what's your take on this type of setup? Because when I was talking to Charmer, this is very much kind of akin to the Elder Scrolls Legends. So the Elder Scrolls Legends digital card game, you had your two separate sides. You had your field lane and then your shadow lane. Okay, and then if you're in your shadow lane, you're hidden for a turn. You can't be targeted. But in the field lane, you can attack and do your stuff like normal. So very similar to this. What's your take on a setup like this? You have two different battlefields here.
Well, I know I'm gonna get tunnel visioned on one side versus the other, and they're gonna take me out from the other end. I just know it's gonna happen. But also that TIE Fighter card, is that card broken as well?
Oh, the 1/2/1.
Is that really good?
That's a 1 cost 2.
Yeah.
It seems so.
This also kind of reminds me of have you played Clash Royale?
Yes.
Where like you have your base in the back,
Yeah,
your two little castle things on the side or whatever they are. I have no idea. And then just
sending units. Yeah, you start sending troops. Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of that when they set it up like this.
But this is also interesting from a deck builder's perspective, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I got to make sure I've got stuff for space. I got to make sure I have stuff for ground.
Ground unit aggro get taken out by everything in space.
Yeah.
Might not be a race you want to do.
Yeah, but I'm interested to see what kind of cards like we're gonna see to see like. I'm interested to see what kind of decks are going the meta. Like I want to see what the meta is going to be like. What the cards. I'm very interested. Because this is really unique. Because like I said, the Elder Scrolls Legends is the only other card game that I can think of that has a setup similar to this.
Yeah.
I mean, Gwent had your different rows, but this is very. It's kind of similar to Gwent a little bit, but I haven't seen it done like this in a physical card game. So
the other thing I really like about it, they get an A+ for these color schemes. If you look at you have the white and blue essentially for the good side. You have the red, black, the green as well when you're playing the Imperials. Yes. Like, oh man, when you're playing red and black, you just feel like the bad guy.
Yes,
I'm super excited to do this.
Very true, very true. Okay, so now let's talk about events, okay? Events have an ability in their text box. When you play an event, use its ability and put the event in your discard pile. So it's just like an instant or sorcery.
Yeah.
At top left, you got the cost, the name, and then below the name is a trait, which I'm interested to see if if that's gonna mean much in the game. I would assume it will, because why have it there then, right? And then it's got the aspect icon, the ability, and also the card that they're showing is Vanquish, 5 cost tactic. It says defeat a non-leader unit. So for 5, straight up defeat something. I mean, this is one of those baseline cards. It gives you a baseline to go off of. So this effect I would expect to pay 5 for this type of effect. I like the artwork on this. It's a really cool card.
Beautiful.
All right, and then they talk about upgrades on the next page. It says upgrades enter play attached to a unit and remain in play until that unit is defeated. Upgrades provide increased power, HP, and or abilities to the attached unit. To attach an upgrade to a unit, slide the upgrade partially underneath that unit so that upgrade's power, HP, and abilities are visible. This is one of those like quality of life improvements that I mean, I was talking to Charmer about this. It's like, why have we not seen this in other games before? Because as card game players, if it's an upgrade, if it's an artifact, an item, you're attaching it to something, it always goes underneath. You put your card on top of it, and then you have it slid out just like that. To have those stats and stuff just at the bottom, it's perfect.
So good.
It is perfect. This is so good. So good. And then it says if the unit an upgrade is attached to leaves play, you defeat that upgrade. Put it into its owner's discard pile. And so the card they show is Vader's lightsaber. We'll talk about this card a little bit later. Okay, one of the other things you can do during the action phase, is that what it was called? Is attack with a unit. All right. So this is always attacking combat is always one of the kind of more important things, I guess, in a card game. It's always interesting to see how the game is going to handle that, right? So it says attacking is the primary way to deal damage to the opponent's base and win the game. You can also attack enemy units. So when you see a statement like that, what's going on in your brain? What do you think about? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Because some games do it, some games don't. So what do you think?
Yu-Gi-Oh! I got very used to attacking enemy creatures because that's all you can do until you can attack face.
Right.
Magic, you're attacking face, and then they're deciding to block.
Decide to block. Yeah.
I do really like both. But with this, it allows for more control set up with your creatures. And I think that's one thing I'm going to have to get used to again is attacking the creature. Maybe I need to play more Yu-Gi-Oh! To get used to attacking the creatures.
Yeah. So it says a unit must be ready in order to attack. Only one unit can attack in a single action. Because remember, the action economy of this game is you do a thing, I do a thing. Action, 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 action. Okay. So it says to attack, follow these steps in order. Exhaust the attacker and choose what to attack. You may attack any enemy unit in the same arena as the attacker, or you may attack the opponent's base directly. And then it says if an enemy unit in the same arena as the attacker has the keyword Sentinel, it must be chosen as the defender unless the attacker has Saboteur. Any abilities that are active while the unit is attacking, including raid, become active at this time. So this is essentially your choose your attacker step. And the next thing it says, if the attacker has Saboteur, you defeat all shields on the defender. I mean, shields, kind of like shield tokens from Magic, where I believe if it is dealt any damage, no damage is dealt, and the shield token is removed. So this, if it has, and we'll get into that as well for sure, but it says if the attacker has Saboteur, you defeat all shields on the defender before anything. So I think before damage is dealt, you get rid of all shield tokens. Okay. If the attacker has Restore, heal damage from your base equal to its Restore value. So it's essentially healing. Okay. If the attacker has any on-attack abilities, use them now. And then it says deal damage. So you do all of those things before damage is dealt. And so far, it does not look like there's blockers. Okay. Your blockers are your units with Sentinel. Those are your blockers. There is no you're declaring a blocker. Okay. So step 5, deal damage. If your unit is attacking a base, it deals damage equal to its power to that base. If it is attacking a unit, the attacker and defender simultaneously deal damage equal to their power to each other. If either unit has damage on it greater than or equal to its HP, it is immediately defeated. So pretty similar to other card games. And then it just gives examples. And then the one thing to note in this game is damage is persistent. There is no, and it would kind of have to be with a turn structure like you go, I go type thing, that action economy. So the other things you can do during this phase are use an action ability. Some cards have action abilities. These abilities often have a cost that must be paid in order to use them, found in brackets after the word action. This cost may include resources that must be paid, indicated by a gold icon, and exhausting the card. If you cannot pay the cost, you cannot use the ability. An epic action is an action ability that can only be used once per game. So now that makes sense, okay, with the leaders, right? Because the leaders each have an epic action on them.
Oh, I see.
So if you use that epic action and then they get defeated, right? If their unit gets into play and then it gets defeated, they get flipped over. I can't use that epic action again because I've already used it. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. And again, another reason why I like that. I think that's very, very cool. It fits the IP. It fits the theme. It really fits for this game. So next thing you can do is take the initiative. Only one player can take this action each round. That player takes control of the initiative counter, even if they already have it, meaning they will go first in the next round. After taking the initiative, you cannot take any further actions for the rest of the action phase. You are considered to pass for all remaining actions this phase. So what do you think of a turn structure action economy like this that has this initiative type token? Like what do you think is important, or kind of what goes on in your head when you see this type of effect?
So I do kind of like it. A lot of the times I think I will just forget about it, the token. I remember when I was playing Destiny, I think there was also like an initiative token style thing. And then I would just never want to take it. I'm just always like not prioritizing it because I have so many other things I want to do. But then also in Ashes, I believe you're able to, well, that one just gets swapped back and forth at the end of each round, I believe. So it's not like
I honestly cannot remember.
I believe so.
I can't remember.
So it's not like you take control of the initiative token, so you can start next turn. It's if you went, then it gets passed over to your opponent at the end of that round.
Yeah, I think so.
So
it's been a while since we played that game.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
And then also for that, you can pass the turn or pass your, I guess your turn, your action, and then your opponent takes one, but then you can go back and do something again.
And we'll get to there next, I think.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, so why I even bring it up is because it says when you take the initiative, you're considered passing the rest of the turn.
But let's talk about this right now next, because it says pass. If you can't or don't want to take any other actions, you may pass. When you pass, you're considered to have done nothing during your action, and your opponent is immediately able to take their next action. You may still take more actions later in the action phase. So if I pass, you do something, it still goes back to me, then I can still do something. But I think in that game, if you passed, you were not allowed to do anything else. I can't remember.
In Ashes?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, so if you pass, that's how I thought it was. If you pass, it's like you're done. I can do as much stuff as I want for the rest of the turn.
I think you're right. I think you're correct.
But I'm pretty sure it's if you pass, I can do something. You can then take another action in Ashes.
This game. In
Ashes.
Oh, in Ashes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember.
Which it always threw me off. I'm like, well, I mean, you passed, so it's just like I can do all my stuff now.
Right.
Where I do like this, where you take the initiative and you're just considered passed for the rest of it.
Right.
Even though it's still the exact same with the pass action of now I can do something and then you can go back to doing something again if you do pass.
Right.
So it still will throw me off, but I do like the fact that if the take the initiative thing is something you do in the early or even mid, you just pass the rest of your turn. If you're really prioritizing,
because the only thing is, it's like how important is going first going to be next turn.
Yep.
That's what's going to be key, right? And that's going to be the pushing and pulling of, okay, I have something I want to do, but I really would like to go first next turn. Do I do this thing now, or do I just ensure that I have initiative next turn? It's gonna be another wrinkle, that like strategic wrinkle that just gets thrown in.
Which I do think with it set up like that, I think being able to tempo out like very few cards for all your resources kind of gives you an advantage of, all right, well, I'm not playing 2 or 3 cards, and then I can take initiative for the next turn and be able to do whatever I want with this big old creature.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then it says, after a player passes, if their opponent passes or takes the initiative as their next action, the action phase immediately ends and play proceeds to the regroup phase. Okay.
Yes.
So this next page talks about the leader. And I think it's pretty, we've kind of touched on this, but it says your leader is the centerpiece of your deck. It begins the game on its horizontal, non-unit side with an ability that's available from the start of the game. Your leader also has an epic action ability that's not available at the start of the game, but is unlocked if you have a certain number of resources in play. Once you have enough resources, you may use this action to deploy your leader. You flip it to its unit side, move it to the ground arena, and ready it. This action doesn't cost any resources and can be used regardless of whether your leader is ready or exhausted. While your leader is in play as a unit, it can attack, be attacked. It can attack, be attacked, and use abilities like any other unit. If your leader is defeated, flip it back to its non-unit side, return it to your base, and exhaust it. Your leader's epic action cannot be used again this game. You cover it with the epic action counter's reminder, but you can still use its other ability. I really like that.
Yeah.
Because again, think about playing a game of Commander. My commander's not in play. I got my commander out once, then immediately got defeated, and I never really was able to use it. This, you can use it no matter where it is, which I really, really, really like. What do you think about effects like this?
Oh, yeah, I do like it. There was, in a game, what was it? Force of Will. Have you played that one ever?
No, I've never played it. Yeah, I know you've talked about it quite a bit, but I've never played it.
So in Force of Will, it was pretty much the same thing. You have a character as like your commander, and then you're building deck around him. They have a passive ability, and then you're even able to bring them out eventually. So it was first set up to where if you were utilizing it to get you... all right, so in the game, you would tap your commander in order to get a resource from the resource deck every single turn.
Yep.
Okay, so you had a completely different side deck for that. Then it was originally, if you then played the commander and it died, it would just be gone. You then have like no more resources for you to get.
What?
So they then later changed it on to where, all right, it goes back into this ghost state.
Okay.
So it goes back into the command zone, and then you can tap it to utilize to get your mana back. But I don't believe you would then have any of the passive abilities like you did when you first originally had it.
Oh.
So this is just a way better version of that.
Yeah.
So I like this more.
Very cool. Cool. All right. So next it talks about the regroup phase. So it says, after the action phase, play proceeds to the regroup phase. You and your opponent complete each of the following steps in order. You draw 2 cards from your deck. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll take that. Yeah, sure. Then you use a resource card. You may choose 1 card from your hand and put it into play face down as a resource. Or you may choose not to put down a resource and keep all of your cards in hand. The player with the initiative chooses whether to put down a resource first, followed by the other player. And then ready cards. Ready all of your exhausted cards in play, including units, resources, and your leader. When both players have readied all their cards, play proceeds to the action phase of the next round. Do you have any opinions one way or the other of where this is in a game? Because with this game, it's at the end of the turn, and many games it's at the start of the turn.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts, opinions one way or the other on this?
Well, if you compare it to other card games where you're really starting with like 6, 7 cards, after you drop your 2 resources, you are starting with 4 cards in your opening hand, and then you don't draw until the end of the turn. So, I mean, does it really matter? First turn, yes. I can see it mattering.
It only matters the first turn.
But after that,
after that, exactly. It really doesn't matter. So that's...
Worst case scenario, you're going to be like, oh, man, I really wish I didn't have just 4 cards.
Yeah, right.
But you also have 2 resources. So
right, exactly. It does kind of even itself out. But then now you're also drawing 2 cards every turn.
Yep.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I always love drawing more cards, so please and thank you.
As soon as I saw that, I'm like, man, I can't wait to get enough 1-drops. I'm going to play nothing but 1-drops, draw 2 cards every turn, pure value, go and get in there.
All right. So Next, they talk about goes on to other rules, and then it says aspect icon. So this is where it starts to get interesting. So it says most cards have one or more icons showing the aspect to which that card belongs. Each aspect represents a different philosophy or motivation. These icons tell you what that card's aspects are and may be referenced by card abilities. Aspects are important when building your own custom deck. And then it references page 20. Now, when it says aspects, I immediately am thinking of, what is the game? Marvel Champions. Because they also reference the card colors basically by aspects. Okay. Yeah. So in this game, there are 6. So blue is vigilance. Red is aggression. Surprise, surprise. Looks like white. I would say that's white is heroism.
Yeah, that's white.
Green is command. Gold is cunning. Gold/orange is cunning. And then black is villainy. So don't know much outside of the names, okay? But I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, if you will. And when you see cards, they'll kind of talk about it. It'll make sense as well. Yeah. Then it talks about tokens. Tokens are just like any other card game. The 2 that they reference are experience tokens and shield tokens. An experience token is basically a +1/+1 counter. Yeah. I like the fact that they have it on a card, and I don't know if you saw the card, but it's a full art card and has +1/+1 at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
It's a full art card with Luke doing a one-hand handstand with Yoda on top.
Yeah.
So it looks cool. So instead of it being a +1/+1 counter, you get a cool looking token. So that's kind of cool. And the other is a shield token. And so the shield token prevents any amount of damage from being dealt to the attached unit, then is defeated. If a token would leave play for any reason, set it aside, again, which is pretty typical. Then it talks about traits, which again, traits are basically types or subtypes. It says all cards have traits, such as Rebel or Imperial, which appear in a small banner near their text box. Traits don't have their own rules, but some card abilities will affect cards with certain traits. Again, pretty typical. Friendly and enemy. Cards are considered friendly. Cards your opponent controls are considered enemy. Which again, this is normal in reference to card games, but I like how they're using these types of terms within a Star Wars game. Yeah. That's kind of cool. Unique cards. All right. This is important. This is like the legendary rule, okay? Unique cards represent specific characters or objects in the Star Wars universe and are indicated by a star before the card's name. You can only have one copy of each unique card in play at a time. If you ever have multiple copies of the same unique card in play under your control, you must immediately defeat one of them. So my understanding is you are still allowed to play a unique card, okay? But if you do, you have to defeat one of them.
Yes.
Okay. Now it should note, okay, Charmer and I had talked about this when I was on their podcast as well, but a unique card is going to be the name and subname. So you'll be able to have multiple Luke Skywalkers with different subnames, okay? Because I believe the Luke Skywalker leader is, I'm going to try and pull it up here. It is Luke Skywalker Faithful Friend. So there's no doubt we're going to see other Luke Skywalkers.
Yeah, Rebel Pilot, Jedi Master.
Correct. Yep. And so you'll be able to have multiple versions of Luke Skywalker, but it's going to be only one version of same name and same subname, essentially.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Okay. Next, they talk about running out of cards in your deck. If you run out of cards in your deck, you continue playing with the cards you already have. Anytime you would draw a card from an empty deck, you instead deal 3 damage to your base for each card you would draw. For instance, when you would draw 2 cards during the regroup phase, instead deal 6 damage to your base. What do you think about a rule like this? As opposed to automatically losing, what do you think?
So this is where it's difficult for me because I love mill decks.
Yes.
And I've been loving them in Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever since like 2005, pretty much 2007.
Yep.
And I like to just have my opponent instantly lose. It's like you run out of run out of resources, you run out of energy. Sure, it's not exactly your life total because that's your HP or your LP or whatever you want to call it. But on the other side, I do like dealing 3 damage to stuff.
Yeah.
Especially twice.
Yeah.
So it's, Oh man, it's too early for me to say if I really like this rule or not.
Right.
But I guess you could also see it of if they are decked out and I force them to draw. Well, that's a bolt effect.
It is, yes,
which I love.
Yes.
So I'm hesitant, but I do see pros and cons for both, and I like both styles for it.
Right.
And in Hearthstone, there's the fatigue rule.
Yep.
So I mean, that tends to work out fine. I just don't want to get beat by someone who has no cards left in their deck. It's going to feel so bad. It's going to feel so bad.
Yep. It'll probably happen.
It's going to happen.
All right. The next page talks about card abilities. So it says several types of abilities can be found in the text box of cards. You've got action abilities, have bold text with the word action, sometimes with a cost in brackets, followed by a colon and an effect. Then there's triggered abilities. And all of these are pretty normal.
Dan was triggered earlier in this.
Yeah, it kind of was. Triggered abilities have bold text indicating their triggering condition with the word when or on. When Dan talks about alligator.
I love that they had that. I instantly thought of it. That's great.
Anyway, followed by a colon and an effect. They resolve automatically after their triggering condition occurs and are mandatory unless they use the word may. The three conditions that appear most often each have specific rules and timing. You have on attack, which this happens after the unit is chosen as an attacker but before damage is dealt. You got when defeated. This happens after the card is defeated. The card is in the discard pile when the ability resolves. Then it says when played. This happens after the card is played. The card is in play when the ability resolves. Essentially, that is an ETB. Yeah. You have keyword abilities appear in red text. Constant abilities, also known as passive abilities, appear on cards that remain in play and have no special styling. They're active as long as the card is in play. And then event abilities appear on events, which is essentially just what happens when you play the instant or sorcery. But in this game, they're called events. Yeah. They're one-time abilities that resolve when the event is played. Mm-hmm. All right. So this is the page for Jim. Okay.
Yes.
This is actually very interesting. Okay. This is extremely interesting. So custom deck building. All right. After learning the basics of the game, the next step is to start building your own custom deck. Or unless you're Jim, it's the first step.
First thing I'm going to do. Dan's going to be like, hey, you want to play with the starter decks? No. Get out of my face.
All right. Additional cards to customize your deck can be found in Star Wars Unlimited booster packs. Your deck must include 1 leader, 1 base, at least 50 other cards consisting of units, events, and upgrades. So at least 50. It is not exactly 50. It's at least 50.
Yeah.
Okay. Your deck cannot include more than 3 copies of any card. That's important. So play sets of 3. Because I was thinking, it's a 50-card deck. I could build a 60-card deck. But it's play sets of 3.
Yeah.
So take note,
And if there is a mill deck, I'm going to play 150 cards because he ain't beating me.
Yeah. Your leader and base each provide aspect icons that dictate the colors of your deck. Yep. Your leader provides 2 icons, and your base provides 1, giving you 3 aspect icons total.
Ooh.
Most cards in your deck have 1 or more aspect icons near their cost. You can include cards of any aspect in your deck, but when playing a card with icons that are not provided by your leader or base, you must pay 2 extra resources for each missing icon. Okay. This additional cost is called the aspect penalty. In general, you should try to only put cards in your deck that match the aspect icons provided by your leader and base. Now, we're going to get into some specific examples here, okay? But before we do, okay, I want to get your quick take on this because I'm thinking back to Lorcana. Because when Lorcana came out, it was you can only build because it is one singular resource. Yep. No land. It's a no land system. And again, this is a similar game. There's no resource specific cards. Every card is its own is a resource. Okay, yep. So there's only one singular resource. Okay, with Lorcana, it was deck building. You can only choose 2 colors. Okay, I don't really like it, but all right, it is what it is. Okay, yeah. This you can add any cards to your deck that you want, but each card has these aspects on them. Mm-hmm. Okay, So you're going to get 3 aspects total when you're building your deck because you got to pick a leader and a base. Okay.
Yep.
So what do you think of a system like this so far? What do you think?
Well, I love being able to play up to 3 colors. That part is great.
Yes.
And we were talking about bases that will have text on it eventually.
We're hoping. We hope.
Eventually.
Yeah. Which, yes. Right.
Why I
right.
say eventually is because it can then be thrown into the stipulation of the card. You can only play this color of cards or
these
whatever
aspects.
Yeah, these aspects
right
inside your deck.
Yeah.
So whatever your base is, that's the only thing you
could
can
have
do.
deck building restrictions on bases.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Or it could be equal to your leaders cost because it said they would have 2 and your base only has 1.
Your base could say you could
unless your leader then has to pay 2 more because it's missing or it has the 1 extra.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. But what do you like? Do you like this? Like what do you think? Because it's interesting. It's very interesting.
It's creative, but it's also kind of what we're used to for Commander. In terms of, well, my leader has these colors, but now it's the leader and your base have these colors.
Right.
So, and I love 3 color. 2 color in Lorcana is fine. I don't mind 2 color, but I love 3 colors the best in Magic.
It's with this. The thing with Lorcana is like those colors, it has no bearing on the resources.
Yes.
Right. It has no,
that other part.
This does.
Yeah.
This does. And that's what I like is it brings it brings it together. Yeah. And it's exactly what I thought. I'm like, this is really cool. I've never seen it done like this before. Yeah. It's very creative, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like you can put whatever you want in your deck.
Yep.
It doesn't limit you, but if you want that really powerful effect that's not in your color, you just got to pay a tax on it. Which is neat. Kind of cool.
Which if we're talking about really low cost stuff, having to double or even triple the cost from going from 1 to even 3.
1 to 3,
when, is really high. But when you start getting to the higher cost things of like, all right, well, this card's a 7-drop. I'm going to have to pay 9 for it, but it's so powerful in the deck I'm running.
Right.
So it's just like, you kind of do it anyway.
Right. For sure. It's very interesting. Okay. So the next page brings in some examples. Okay. So, all right. So it says the example provided is if your leader provides, all right, it's blue, white, and red. Okay. I don't remember what the aspect names are. Okay. Because I don't have the chart in front of me, but it's blue, white, red. It's aggression, heroism. It's aggression, heroism, and vigilance. I think.
Oh, vigilance.
I think it's vigilance.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. So, all right, a card with a single blue, which is vigilance, white, which is heroism, red is aggression. A single one of those icons would cost no extra. A card with blue and white or red and white icons would cost no extra. A card with a single green, yellow, or black icon would cost 2 extra. A card with green, white icons would cost 2 extra icons because you have the white icon, but you're missing the green. Okay.
Yeah.
A card with double blue would cost 2 extra.
This part is the one that really makes me go, what?
Yep.
I thought it was going to be fine, but it doesn't.
It doesn't, yeah. Because your leader and base are only providing you 1, 1, and 1. Yeah. So that card is double blue, but you're only provided the 1 from either your leader or your base.
Yeah.
So a card with double blue would cost 2 extra because you have a single blue icon, but are missing the second. In order to play such a card at no extra cost, you would need your leader and base to provide 2 blue icons. A card with green and black would cost 4 extra because you are missing both the green and the black icon and have to pay 2 extra for each. So they give a rule of thumb here, which will be interested to see how this shakes out. But it says a good rule of thumb is for your deck to include about 30 to 40 units with a mix of ground and space units and about 10 to 20 events and upgrades. You should make sure to include cards with a variety of costs, including plenty of 1 to 3 cost cards to play early in the game.
One of my favorite quotes from Dragon Ball Super is from Frieza, okay? One of the first villains in Dragon Ball Z history. He is looking at something, turns away, says, I'm going to ignore that. This is the part I'm going to ignore that. I know what I'm doing.
Like, I can appreciate when games try to do that for new players, but just like you said,
Get on my face.
yeah. Yeah, I get it. It's funny. Yes, exactly.
But going over the thing with the colors, when I saw the double blue will be 2 extra cost, I was just like, wait, but you're playing blue. It's not you're just playing blue.
Exactly.
So now when I was like, oh, I love 3 color, but there's going to be sometimes where you need to play 2 color.
Yeah.
Or even 1 color, or you have to pay extra.
You got to get that. You got to get those extra icons in there.
Which is, I love that.
I
like that.
Yeah. It's unique. It's very, very unique.
Yep.
And I like that.
Yep.
I really, really like that.
There aren't too many games out where it's going based off of, all right, how much power in a color are you? How powerful are you in aggression?
Right.
It's like, oh, well, I just have a little bit of aggression. Or I am so aggressive to where I'm playing 3 red and I can't play anything else unless I want to pay more. But I can also play those really, well, we don't even know if there's going to be triple red or triple black or whatever it's going to be.
Right.
Which I would love to see that.
Right.
But make them ridiculously powerful because it's pretty limited, it seems.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing we got to go over is the keyword glossary, okay, which this is, and honestly, in any TCG, this is interesting for players like us,
Yes.
okay? So there's not a lot right now, but even what they do have is kind of interesting, okay? Ambush is haste. After you play this unit, it may ready and attack an enemy unit. This unit does not ready if there are no enemy units to attack.
And it has to attack a unit.
It does have to attack a unit.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay, this is another thing that it's like, wait a minute. It's very creative. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because now when you can attack units directly, yes, you can attack, but you have to attack a unit.
Yep.
And I think it makes sense with the name Ambush.
Yep.
Makes perfect sense. I like it. Really like it. Grit. This unit gets +1/+0 for each damage on it. We've seen that, but I don't think that has a keyword specifically in Magic. But I mean, it's mostly, that's usually an ability.
Yeah.
Where it'll say on the card.
Because damage isn't going to persist. So
Correct. Right.
It's also less likely to have that. The closest thing to that is fire breathing.
Right. You pay a red, gets +1/+0.
Yep.
Overwhelm. When this unit deals damage to an enemy unit while attacking, deal excess damage to that opponent's base. Trample. Seen that before. Raid. While this unit is attacking, it gets extra power equal to the raid value. Oh, example, a unit with raid 2 gets +2/+0 while attacking. Okay, we've seen that. Challenger from Morgana. Same thing, yeah. Restore. When this unit attacks, heal damage from your base equal to the restore value before dealing damage. Example, a unit with restore 2 heals 2 damage from your base when it attacks. We've seen these effects before in other card games, but are there other games that have a keyword for this effect?
Also, this is on attack. Magic's lifelink. That has to be damage dealt.
Correct. That's damage dealt.
So I like restore the most so far.
Yeah. Restore plus lifelink?
I don't know about that.
Yeah. All right. Saboteur. This is interesting. We've talked about this. When this unit attacks, ignore Sentinel. Ignore the Sentinel keyword on enemy units and defeat all shield tokens on the defender before dealing damage.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I like that.
I like it.
Sentinel. Enemy units in the same arena, ground or space as this unit can't attack your non-Sentinel units in this arena or your base. If you have multiple units with Sentinel in the same arena, your opponent may choose which of those units to attack. Place units with Sentinel slightly ahead of other units in that arena as a reminder that they must be attacked. I don't think I will. Again, this is what bodyguard. It's what's taunts, right? It's taunts and Hearthstone. That's what it is. Yeah. But yeah, this is again seen this effect before. And then the last one, shielded. When you play this unit, give a shield token to it. If any amount of damage would be dealt to a unit with a shield token on it, prevent that damage and defeat one shield token on that unit.
Yeah.
What do you think of an effect like shielded, especially in a game where the action economy is you do a thing, I do a thing, and it's just back and forth? What do you think?
I like this more than just giving a creature indestructible in comparison to Magic.
Okay, why so?
It's so annoying to deal with indestructible things.
That's true.
But also where damage is going to persist here. I guess like indestructible doesn't really make sense.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I do like that Magic even came out with those indestructible tokens, pretty much the shield tokens. And then when they would take the damage, it's just gone.
Right.
So yeah, I like these. I like this.
Yeah. Now the last thing is, what do you think? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 keywords listed on this page. For a new TCG, this being set 1, what do you think about having so little? Not a lot.
I think it's a good amount.
Yeah, I do as well. Like I like it. I don't want to see a lot here, right? Yeah. Especially on set 1, I don't want to be overwhelmed. I mean, as a seasoned TCG player, I'm used to there being a lot, and I like having a lot of effects there. But I don't want to see it first. I don't want to see it straight away. Like I want to see a good base, a good foundation built upon, and then over time, okay, we can add more stuff to it. I want to see them improve upon the design and so on and so forth.
And a lot of these are just very basic, straightforward. They're important cards to have at the start of a game. So I do like it. I want to see more stuff coming out. And if they did come out with more keywords, like we wouldn't have a problem with it.
No, sure.
But there's going to be other people that are like, yeah, this is kind of a lot of stuff to be keeping track of.
Right. So, okay, so that was all of the quick start rules. That was the entire document that we went through.
Yes.
Okay. So now that we've gone through that, Jim, what are your thoughts? Now, we didn't really go over a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Maybe we save that for another episode or another video. But just after going over the rules, okay, what do you think of a game like Star Wars Unlimited? What are your thoughts on it?
I am very excited to play it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it really got me with the deck creation.
Did you?
Like
did
going
it really?
over that stuff.
Yeah.
It's always what gets me, dude. I'm like, if I really like it, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
To where, other games, I'm just like, oh, okay, it doesn't really wow me. Like, not all limitations in a card game just wow me.
Right.
So
did this wow you?
It was more of, I like the hero builds, and then also paying attention to how many of the pips of aggression you have, how many of the things of villainy you have in comparison to the rest of the deck. To where, originally I thought it was going to be like Magic's where, oh, all right, I'm playing 3 colors. Why wouldn't I ever just always play 3 colors in this game? Then they go over, it's like, well, if a card has double blue, double red, you now have to pay that extra for it because you don't know how to be double red, double blue.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see more.
Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, this is just really unique. Anytime I see something that's unique, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go take another look at this. So I'm glad. That makes me happy, right? Because I'm very, very interested in this game. So, in all honesty, okay, before we move on to the card of the week, because this is honestly now a game that I'm like, I kind of want to pay attention to, and I kind of want to start making some stuff for it because it looks really, really, really cool. So what I would like to do is, FFG is doing a really good job interacting with the community. Okay. They have already been, this game is still 6 months at least out. We're still a ways away. And we already have a bunch of cards. We already have communication involvement from FFG. They're reaching out to content creators. Like, they are involved already with the community. And they're doing, from what I've seen, they're doing a really, really good job from that standpoint. Okay?
Also, we were just joking about the Final Fantasy games.
So for those of you who haven't heard, when we've talked about FFG in the past, It's slipped, and I have said Final Fantasy because we've done videos, done videos about the Final Fantasy trading card game, and I've just said instead of saying FFG, we just say instead of saying Fantasy Flight, it comes out Final Fantasy. Yeah, it's funny. It's just funny. So it's a slip that's happened many times before on the podcast. Yep. I apologize, FFG. Don't hate me. But in all honesty, I kind of want to start digging into this game more because this is, like you said, this is very unique.
Yep.
It's very unique and it's very intriguing and interesting. And I've posted on Twitter on our Hobbies and Happiness account, like, should we start making content for this game? And you know what response I get all the time is Palpatine doing the do it. Do it. And I'm like, I keep walking into that. I kind of keep walking into it. So I kind of want to do that. So what I would like to do, and I kind of want to get your take on this, is maybe we just do like a weekly recap of just going over the cards because they're releasing stuff. They're releasing cards like pretty consistently.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
That just sounds like spoiler season to me.
Yeah, it kind of does. It kind of does.
Well, you got to do this for every card game? We're going to be doing nothing but spoiler seasons, Dan.
It's nothing but spoiler season. But anyway,
always spoiler season.
Yeah, but anyway, this is the game that I'm interested in. Sounds like Jim's interested in it.
Cool.
And we're going to keep a close eye on it. We're going to keep a close eye, and maybe you'll see future content from us. Who knows? We'll see. You probably will. But anyway, all right. With that, we're going to move on to the card of the week. The card of the week this week, we're staying on theme. We're gonna do a Star Wars Unlimited card.
Yes.
Okay. So we've talked about this card earlier. Okay. And it's Vader's lightsaber, probably one of the most iconic lightsabers in the entire universe.
Yep.
It's Vader's. So Vader's lightsaber is a 2-cost aggression and villainy upgrade. So it has both the aggression and villainy, aspects. There we go. Aspects on it. Yes. It says attached to a non-vehicle unit. Mm-hmm. So it says when played, if attached unit is Darth Vader, you may deal 4 damage to a ground unit. So it's Vader's lightsaber. So at the top, it says Vader's lightsaber with that unique triangle next to it. And then it also says it at the bottom. Okay. It says Vader's lightsaber. It is an item, weapon, a lightsaber. And then it gives +3 attack and +1 defense. And those icons are at the bottom.
Yep.
So Jim, what do you think about a card like Vader's lightsaber?
Oh man. You know, who else am I really going to want to give this to other than Darth Vader cards?
Right, exactly.
Right. Because when played, because there's not like magics equipped with all the equipment cards that they have. It's when these upgrades when the creatures they are
units.
When the units they are equipped to are destroyed, these cards are also destroyed.
Yeah, so it's like an enchantment.
Yeah.
If we're equivalating the equivalent to magic is an enchantment.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
All these different words are now just throwing me off.
I know. Yes, I know.
So yeah, it is when it's played. You attach it to a Darth Vader to get that extra damage off, which I will always want to be using it for. But sometimes you're just going to need that +3 attack and the +1 HP. Mm-hmm. Overall, I love this card. It is beautiful, and there was nothing more menacing in Rogue One than at the end. When Darth Vader is down the hall and he just
turns on that saber.
He turns on the saber, dude.
Best part of that movie. Absolute.
That movie was really good overall.
Oh, it was such a good movie. But that scene was the best scene in the whole movie. But that doesn't mean the rest of the movie was bad.
No.
That just means that scene was that good.
Yeah.
That is exactly what that means.
Yeah. Was so... and you saw all the fear and terror in every...
Oh, and
all the rebels
those rebels. Get me out! Get me out of here! Oh, it was so good, dude. Like, I didn't even care about the CG for Princess Leia.
Yeah.
It looked fine.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was fine. I didn't even care about it.
Yeah.
Just that Vader was just...
Yeah.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was like probably what 30 seconds. It was not long.
No,
it was not long at all.
And I saw something or people talking about it online of the lights on his chest that are normally lit up. Why weren't those lit up at the start of that scene as well? Because it's like, if that's controlling all of his breathing, he's literally dying there just to look cool, to light up his lightsaber.
Vader would do that.
Worth it.
Worth it. Yes.
The rule of cool.
Straight up worth it. It was so good. I mean, I remember watching that, and then you just see nothing, and then, oh my goodness, I'm like, yes, because we all knew what was happening. We knew what was coming. We knew it.
Same thing with A New Hope when he goes up against old Ben.
Oh yeah, Obi-Wan.
And it was just a beautiful moment.
It was so good, absolutely good. So, would you play this again? We don't not have a lot of cards at all.
Yeah.
Would you play this? Would you attach this to not Vader?
Well, I mean, yeah, there are going to be times where you need to attach it to non-Vader, but I mean, I would love to be having Darth Vader tribal list, you know, just tempo out Darth Vaders, and then just be attaching this, getting heck of value, and then all these other cards that are going to be dealing damage. Who knows? Who knows? Dan might know what I'm running.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, this is like the Grixis. Like this is very. Yeah. It's like the Grixis equivalent to Magic.
Some very Rakdos because it's the villainy and the aggression red and black. I'm excited to play it.
Yeah, it looks cool. I mean, like if you think about, if you attach it to Vader, that's 7 damage coming down, 7 additional damage coming down that turn. Yeah. So if you're thinking about like, I mean, just think about dealing 4 damage to get rid of a Sentinel unit, and then now Vader's now attacking for 3 more, and like let's look if you attach this to the Darth Vader leader unit. So the Darth Vader leader unit, 7 costs. So it costs 7 to get him out. Okay. He's a 5/8. Yeah. 5/8 stat line. And then says on attack, you may deal 2 damage to a unit. Mm-hmm. So now if we look at the Saber, so the Saber comes out, deals 4 to a unit. Yep. He's getting 3 additional. Right, but then on attack, dealing 2. That's a heck amount of damage.
He goes to an 8/9 with already dealing 4 damage from the lightsaber, and then on attack, deal 2 more damage to a unit. I want to play this so badly.
That's so great. That's a ton of. Oh my goodness!
Yeah. And then
that's crazy.
Then I was also looking at some of the other blue cards because I'm like, well, now that I know how the game works, and the deck building, I'm like Vader and Dagobah Swamp. So now I'm playing Grixis colors, and then you take a look at Vanquish. I'm like, I'm just trying to kill everything. I want to do this so badly.
Right. It's so cool. It's crazy, man.
And then even who's I'm just looking at the other spoilers. I don't want to get too off topic. I'm excited to play it.
So should we start looking at these cards a little bit more in depth, Jim?
I think so. We're not making content yet.
It worked, ladies and gentlemen. It worked. My evil plan is coming to fruition. Yes. So that is this week's card of the week, Vader's lightsaber from Star Wars Unlimited. But I want to ask the viewers, listeners, should we start making Star Wars Unlimited content? Somebody's going to respond and say, do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
But in all honesty, I'm curious, like, what viewers, listeners, what do you guys think? Like, are you interested in a game like Star Wars Unlimited? I know we touched on it a little bit a few episodes ago, but now that we know how to play, we've seen all these cards. What's your take? Do you guys, is this a game that you are interested in? Do you want to see more from this game? Are you more excited for Unlimited than you are for Lorcana? Are you more excited for Lorcana? What's your thoughts? Let us know. Because honestly, this game super unique, very unique, very creative. The only thing, and we talked about this before, and I know this is going to be the sticking point for many people, is its FFG. And FFG has left a bad taste in people's mouths. But I really think I don't want to say they're coming around, but they are talking about the failures of the past, and they recognize what happened in the past. Like their first live stream, they talked about Destiny. They talked about what happened there, and they don't want that to happen here. And they just want to see this succeed. And that's another thing. Like, they are doing pretty consistent live streams about this game. And it's like, they're doing a lot of things right. And I'm excited for it. And we're gonna keep watching. This game looks really, really cool. So with that being said, let us know what you guys think. And Jim, before we get out of here, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram at Jim Morgan HNH.
You guys can find me on Instagram Twitter _DG Campbell, Instagram Dino.G.Campbell. If you head over to our website, hobbiesandhappiness.com, you can find links to all of our social content there. Where we're most active is on Twitter at hobbiesandhappy. And youtube.com/hobbiesandhappiness. Again, I really want to say thank you again to everybody for 100 episodes of this podcast. I'm excited that we kind of talked about Star Wars Unlimited on this episode. Very, very cool. And it's really neat. You know, not every podcast gets to 100 episodes. And for some podcasts, 100 episodes is not a lot, right? And hopefully we get there. Hopefully we get to that point. But really, guys, we could not have done this without you. So thank you so much for being here, with us on this journey. It means a lot. It means a lot that every single one of you are here along with us for the journey. So thank you again from the bottom of our heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. So with that out of the way, thanks for being here again, and we'll catch you in the next episode. See you, everybody.
Take care.